everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Simply Selicia. This is episode 2 of the Simply series. Today we are talking about stan culture. So, the thing about the Simply series is we are going to cover so many different topics, and the idea of the Simply series is mostly just to be educational to people who are new to the K-pop world, but also for a way like new fans and existing fans can kind of meet in the middle and discuss, what are we as various K-pop fandoms, what are the things that we commonly come across, and why we do things, how we do things, why we do them that way, and whether or not they should be done that way. So just a lot of discussion about the K-pop world in general is what we'll be doing on this series, and we'll take it from there. Every single video that is part of the Simply series will have a link down in the description below that is a link to various sources and resources that I have put together that have to do with the topic at hand. So I do my research before I do these videos, and I try to come up with various different, sources that you can either use that either back up what it is that I'm talking about, or, facts for if it's like a news story or anything else will go in there, but also just promotional kind of topics and discussion, like articles that have been written about what it is I'm talking about, or, instances and examples of things that I've been talking about, so that you can go and look at them on your own and come up with your own, discussion points, or just kind of your own insight for what it is that we'll be talking about. And that's that. So let's just go ahead and jump into it. The origins of the word stan are very dark. I would honestly consider it just a few steps away from being a sassing fan. And honestly, the origins of the word itself, it has evolved far beyond that till now. It's kind of become one of those things where the word has been so overused that it really has no connection to the origin. It's at least getting there. It's in an in-between stage right now. A stan originally would be the amalgamation of stalker and fan, and you put those together. So you can see why originally, based on that original context, I would consider a stan to be not far from a sassing fan. But that's not exactly the case. It's a little complicated, and we will get into it further here in a minute. I will say that from being on stan Twitter on and off for a long period of time, and seeing the things I've seen and knowing what I know, that yes, you can, kind of delve off into the dark side of stan culture pretty easily, but we will talk about that later, so we'll come back to this. So often what happens in my own personal case, I had a Twitter, but I didn't use it because I didn't understand it, and I didn't have a reason to learn it because I had no particular interest in it at the time when, it was first being created and people were moving over to it. However, then I fell for BTS, and when I fell for BTS, I had always been a K-pop fan off and on, but I had never really been in the middle of a fandom and like on the forefront of every single thing that was happening, and Twitter provides that. So I signed up for a stan account. I created a stan account, and their entrance into my life and what they were doing for me at the time led me to stan Twitter. Exactly, Kenai. He's right. A stan account is a sub account, a secondary account that you create that has to do with, the fandom that you're a part of, and you're just interacting with other fans, etc. on, that account. And when I created it, it means like my username had to do with BTS, my layout has to do with BTS. I'm following BTS, I'm talking about BTS pretty much 95% of the time, even though I follow many other groups, and I love many other groups, and I follow them closely and like retweet their stuff too. 95% of that stan account is BTS and me keeping up with the news and things that are going on there, as well as just talking with other fans. So that is what I use my stan account for. That is what most people use their stan account for. The reason I didn't keep this as my main account and why I have it as a secondary Stan account is because I wasn't trying to put off or confuse or overwhelm anybody who follows me in day-to-day life, or anybody who is still actively using Twitter that kind of added me as a friend when we were like switching over to Twitter when it was first a thing, or like for a project in college or stuff like that. I didn't want to overwhelm anyone in that way. So I just switched over my information to another account. Starting with the good stuff, being a fan who went into creating like a Stan account and being a part of the community so deeply in that way, I was given validation that I had not really experienced growing up being a fan of K-pop and Asian culture overall. I feel like I was put in the midst of a lot of like-minded people, and that was really nice to see for once. Like, people had never, totally, I mean, there were instances, but people never really negated, my interests outright. It would just be kind of like a lukewarm response, or, certain cherry pick certain things here and there. It was never a full kind of all the time support system for that set of interests. And over time, I never felt like people were making me out to be like the weird person or anything for enjoying that. It was just that they'd rather talk about other things that they had in common with me, and it was easier for me to do that. And I'm not going to force anyone to like something that I like just because I like it. And I had many other interests that I had that we could talk about, so naturally I would taper up in those things and talk less about these other things that I was into. So now, grown adult, like just ready to actually talk to people about it and have time to be excited about it, making the Stan account was fun, and it was a good idea for me because I feel like I found a place that I fit in without negating any other things about myself. I feel great being here. I feel great. I feel like I made really great friends. I made really clearly lifelong friends here. And I also was exposed to even more cultures and even more people from all over the world, and being able to hear their take on the same media that we're consuming is amazing. Like, that's beautiful. And overall, just sharing similar interests with so many people all over the world, and the positive impacts of not just sitting here worrying about, at the time that all of this found me and really took hold, it gave me something to do. Like, it gave me something to focus on other than just me and all my sadness. The teamwork of it, of, voting and streaming and, listening and talking about the music and everything. It was better than sitting around in my sadness of the time. So I was super into and dedicated to that. However, we cannot be blind to the flip side of stan culture. If a sasaeng is somebody who is actively like gathering information and trying to, physically be in the same place as that idol and follow them around, and just kind of, be in their space and in their business. This isn't everyone. It's not everyone, and we have to say that that is not the intention of everyone. There's this concept that is playing out more and more online where you might not be physically tracking and gathering information about every single thing every place they're going to try and be there. Like, that's not the case. But we are still consistently tracking and keeping track of everything that they post on social media. So, like, we comment on every post, we save nearly every image of them in some cases, and even, have active timelines of every single hair color they've had since pre-debut, stuff like that. Most of this behavior as a whole overall is innocent. Like, it's totally innocent. We are consumers, and they have something that they are producing and handing off to us, and we decide things from there. And even though a lot of these practices are innocent, it doesn't mean that there isn't an undertone of being overly committed and way too involved and everything else. What happens when we are in this bubble of validation for so long and have so many people working towards similar goals is that anything that we come across that is a opposition or is something that doesn't stick to the general status quo of the majority who are following this artist, what happens is the fans swarm that thing, that person, that idea, and they have something to say back. And the thing is, we end up swarming it like bacteria. We are like white blood cells going after bacteria. But the thing is, there's good and bad bacteria. So it's up to us as fans to know and set the standards of like the difference. So not every criticism is taking a shot at, somebody that you admire and that you follow. Not every action deserves reaction. So I feel like every single fandom of every single thing kind of, we all have to deal with comparison and deal with, what the mainstream opinion is, and, deal with trolling and deal with fighting even within the fandom amongst ourselves. And, everybody has to deal with this. That's just, it's part of interacting with humans. It's something that everybody has to deal with. And we all need to take a step back and address how it is that we speak to each other and communicate with each other overall, just out in the world, but also how we communicate with each other on social media. So a lot of interaction is absent of kind of having to define who you are out in, the general world. And it'd be foolish to say that the fact that you don't have to say who you are doesn't lead to more, like, people acting out more in some cases. It wouldn't, it's not right to say that, because there is facts and basis to that. We have seen it proven over and over again. However, what I've done is I have built a community on my social accounts that boosts the positives and, strive personally every day to myself to create interactions and create a space that if anybody were to come through, that they would be okay. And that doesn't mean I don't see the war zones out there beyond the barriers that I have set for my own sanity. This is a topic that we will expand on as we go, and I thought that this was a good starting point to provoke thought and just like conversation overall. So, please tell me what you feel about it. Please tell me how you feel about this whole stan culture thing, and what you have experienced, or what you see and what you think should change, and how we should interact with each other. And we can't fix and can't police and can't do everything all the time for everyone, but little movements here and there and little things and keeping this conversation going is what enacts those changes over time. So go ahead down in the comments, let me know what you think. I want to hear about it. Like, I seriously want to hear about it. Anything that you say that we are having a conversation about on there, or like on my other social media, Twitter and Instagram, if you say anything to me there, I will talk about it in the next iteration of this Simply series video. So there is going to be a part 2 where we talk about a few more things. But this is where we're starting and just kind of opening up the discussion. So if you like what I do on this channel, if you want to, please subscribe, drop a like. I'd love to hear your viewpoint. I'd love to see you stick around. And until next time, thank you for watching the Simply series.